Hi, I'm Christina Wise, best-selling author of Falling for Money and CEO-founder of the award-winning Good Life Companies. I'm passionate about helping women thrive in business, with money, and in life so that we can truly live a good life. I'm so excited to share with you my SAS. That is, my spending is saving system, where I teach 5 surefire ways to start saving today. I'm sharing exactly what I taught recently in my $1,500 training course and sharing it with you for free. You'll hear me talk about 5 SAS buckets. Just think of buckets overflowing with cash. And you'll also hear about my prosperity mapping system, or money map as I sometimes call it. When watching the training, keep in mind that my SAS system I'm teaching you here is just one part of that 5-part prosperity mapping system. You'll also hear some new ways I talk about money, like ARM, which stands for Annual Required Minimum Expense. If you hear any other terms that are new and require some additional explanation, just put your questions in the box below. I'll be sure to respond. Now, let's get started so that you can take home more of that hard-earned cash. What we're going to do is I'm going to put on the board my money mapping system. It's a system, and like I said before, the system works. So part of this is to learn the system, to believe in the system, and then start putting things into the system, and then you'll drive it. But right now, we're just learning what's under the hood, okay? Going to go a big overview, like I said before. No need to take mad notes. It might even be better not to take any notes at this point, just to try to watch and listen and take it in, because we're going to dig into each part. This system is my money mapping system, as I call it. Another name that we could call this would be a budget. How many has heard the word budget? How many like to budget? There's nothing fun about budgeting. The word budget's like the word diet, right? Ugh. So, and what does a budget mean anyway? It's such a stupid word. Like, who came up with that? So to me, like in the life design piece, part of design is mapping. Like if you worked on big projects, you're scoping out things, there's a lot of mapping as the exercise, like where we are now, what are the, turns and directions we're going to go, and where do we ultimately want to be. So it's, I call it money mapping, and it's mapping where we want our money to go and how we want it to flow, and ultimately how big we want it to be. And it's designed, like I said, as a system where it has certain parts, certain working parts. And the 5 parts are that we're going to talk about most of the rest of our time together. Is the first part is what I call your arm. And it's, we'll talk about it more, but that's the first part. So there's a couple secrets to this system. The first secret to this system is the way it's organized. So if you've ever done any budgeting before, this is different. And it comes, again, after a lot of practice and trying to make budgeting work, and why wasn't it working, and why would we continue to go out of budget, and why were we spending more money and not saving enough. And I came to the conclusion because the budget was out of order. So I just, and you'll understand why later. So the first part, we're going to call it our ARM, and I'll describe what that means, the acronym, what that means here in a minute. The second piece is savings and investing, which are kind of 2 parts, but we're lumping them together. The third part is debt reduction, and the fourth part is little luxuries. So that's how the lack of a better word, budget is organized. And then we're going to wrap that up and talk about how we allocate our income so that everything fits within the budget, fits within this money mapping system in a way that allows us to fill all our buckets, our money buckets, and hit our numbers, okay? So there's 5 different parts we're going to cover, and I'm going to overview all the parts, and then we're going to dig into each of those individually. What I'm going to share with you is very different. We're starting to like get into the part that may be somewhat triggering, and don't judge me and don't judge yourselves. That's the rule, okay? We're just going to see where we go. Fair enough? And the working model, what we're going to work off for the rest of our time together is a $75,000 income. So of course, based on what your true income is, you'll adjust it. The percentages are more or less going to stay the same, but it's just a good working number that I think that many people can relate to. Number 1, okay? So I'm going to write 75,000 here on the board. And I have terrible handwriting, so we'll just let me know if you can't read it. So $75,000 income. With the $75,000 income, so what we're going to do is we're all going to pretend. This is the pretending piece. Okay, you'll work on the non-pretend here in a minute, but we're going to pretend we all earn $75,000. We earn $75,000. Do we get to keep, that's our salary, that's our earnings. Do we get to keep all $75,000? No? Why not? Taxes. Oh. All right, so taxes. So what that means is that we earn $75,000, but there's a portion of that money that's not our money. Who's it belong to? The government, Uncle Sam, whatever you want to call that big, beast, it's not our money. Uncle Sam, the government's already designated a piece of our money as their money. Are we in agreement? Yes. Okay, so, the second part to this is I'm going to use a $75,000 income, and I'm rounding numbers. So don't get a calculator, because if you do, the numbers aren't going to match up just right, and you're going to get very annoyed at me. So we're just doing some generous rounds here to keep the math easy so we can all follow. Okay? You guys okay with that? All right, so $75,000 income. So roughly, based on a $75,000 income, Uncle Sam takes $15,000. So that means we have to live on how much? $60,000. Right there. How much do we have to live on? Say it again. $60,000. That's why most of us are in trouble. Because we don't have $60,000 to live on. Really. Not if we're going to get financially secure, and not if we're going to build financial wealth. But that's it, that if we're employed, our taxes are taken out for us, right? So we get used to living on what's left over. Or if we're self-employed, we have to pay that, so we pay it quarterly or however we pay it, but we need to go put it somewhere, right? So that's the first piece, is that Uncle Sam gets Uncle Sam's money, but where we get in trouble is that we think we have this $60,000 to live on. My system is no. We pay Uncle Sam first because we don't have a choice, otherwise what? We're in big trouble. So we have a few different buckets. We're going to have a bucket of what I call the buckets above the line and buckets below the line. I'm covering a lot. I'm going to go through this pretty quickly in an overview. Again, we're going to dig into this deeper. So I can't draw a bucket, but bear with me. This is where your creativity really comes to mind, is to imagine. But here's bucket 1, and here's bucket 2, above the line. So bucket 1, this is your taxes bucket. So some of these are real in the sense that for Gary and me, for example, most of our money is self-employed income, so the government doesn't take out our money, so we have to put this $15,000 where? We have to put it aside. We need to save it. So this is a bucket. It's a savings bucket for taxes. And this $15,000, what's $15,000 divided by 12? Because we're going to start thinking monthly in terms of months. So it's roughly, I think, $1,250. So monthly, if we got paid every 2 weeks, got paid per month, $1,250 gets paid to Uncle Sam. So that goes to Uncle Sam's bucket. We don't really want to fill Uncle Sam's bucket, do we? But we fill the bucket we have to.
I hope I can add some sass to your life with these 5 Spending is Saving training videos. If you have any questions or comments while watching, put them in the comments section below. I will reply personally to every post. Enjoy.